Nixon years, a documentary was released that explored the topic of UFOs. Rather unusual for the time, this documentary was to have the full cooperation of all the branches of the US military. In this film, there were frames allegedly taken from actual military footage of a UFO landing at an Air Force base in New Mexico. The producers of the documentary had apparently been promised the full length of the film, but the Department of Defense had suddenly, and without much explanation, rescinded their offer to provide this groundbreaking footage. The footage is said to have included the recording of multiple aerial UFOs and the meeting between their occupants and the military officials present at the time. This case file joined the theorists as they mishear, misread, and mispronounce the names and places associated with the mystery of the Holloman Air Force Base UFO encounter.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, Case File 267, the Holloman Air Force Base UFO documentary. Aliens. I'm Braden.
I'm Zal.
You can't. Search engine optimization doesn't work.
Doesn't work for voice.
It's just for voice. I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
Now, I will take credit for this case file because
take credit.
You take credit for everything, so why not?
Take credit.
What else is fucking new?
Let's do this case file and then ask Dan what I should watch.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was like, so every now and then people will send us stuff and I'll be like, you know, if they send us stuff at the perfect time, sometimes it's the next episode. Well, one of us will be like, hey, look at this. And we'll be like, yeah, fuck it. We didn't have anything planned. This is the next episode. And I was like, it was like a late in the evening, something I was like drinking. And someone sent me like a Twitter post that just said Holloman. That's how I read it.
Holloman.
Yeah.
And I went, and there was like a picture of like a glowing person. And I was like, it peaked all of it. I was like, fuck, Holloman. Yeah, I want to talk about the Holloman. So I posted to the group with doing absolutely zero checking.
That sounds about right.
Of what this is. And
that's on brand.
Hey, yeah, I said, we should do this next. And then we're like, yeah, okay. We had nothing planned, so this is up next. Just kind of jumps the queue. And then it's like, start looking into it. I'm like, Dan writes like Holloman Air Force Base. And I'm like, what is this bullshit? I was like, I want to talk about the Holloman. And then I realized that there was just a spelling error in the Twitter post that said Holloman. And it's just Holloman Air Force Base. And I was like, oh, excellent topic. So
that's the high end shit you get around here, you know?
Yeah. You know, every now and then you catch us if you're sending us, stuff we can do. It does make the list.
Every now and then you catch Braden on a few muscle relaxants and a couple drinks and he believes whatever is read in front of him. It's like if you put on the teleprompter, he will believe it.
Yeah, 100%.
Holloman.
Holloman.
We gotta do the Holloman.
Right. All right, let's do it.
So this case file is going to be called Case File 267, the Holloman.
So it actually is referring to Holloman Air Force Base, which is a United States Air Force base, which is located about 6 miles southwest of Alamogordo, New Mexico. Which New Mexico in itself is a UFO hotspot, I suppose, chock full of weird things that happen down there. Including things like Roswell and all that fun stuff.
Testing of the first atomic bomb.
Doesn't Gordo mean fat?
Yeah, or big.
El Gordo does.
El Gordo. Well, we had a guy on our football team that we call it Gordo.
So
he's a DB, so he shouldn't have been fat. It was fun.
So the Air Force Base has been around. I mean, it was established in the heyday of the United States
United States military expansion right there after World War II. It was established in the early 1940s, and originally it was an Army airfield since the Air Force didn't exist yet. And then it eventually became the Holloman Air Force Base, which was named after Colonel George V. Holloman, who was actually a pioneer in the area of pilotless aircraft and guided missile research, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, basically he was in charge of they would, because they wanted everyone, this is completely made up, by the way, partially not made up, but I'm going to credit Holloman. They were like, oh, it's the war. We need everyone to be able to just, grab weapons and American soldiers be successful. So he had the prototype for the first Nerf propelled fucking grenade launcher. You just throw it, but they put it in an old Nerf ball. That part is true. I don't know if he created it or not.
They used to do that.
They used to do that because they're like, you know what Americans can do? We can fucking throw a spiral, baby. Just tuck that grenade right in an old Nerf ball and just on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Think about having imagine Uncle Rico part of the U.S. military, hawking those things over them there mountains.
It's basically a tomahawk. It's basically a tomahawk missile at that point. There's
they were before the intercontinental ballistic missiles. This was it. Uncle Rico just fucking hawking them.
Ex-college athletes just chucking grenades.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Is like,
could you imagine Patrick Mahomes or Jared Allen with those?
Just give them a whole bunch of them and you win the war.
Yeah,
just bunker busters right through
sidearm them.
Yeah.
How heavy would that? How heavy would it be though? That'd do some damage to your joints.
Nothing's too heavy for Uncle Rico.
I mean, that is a real thing. There are parts of that.
I saw that guy throw
Nerf
a
ball. Not Nerf. Well, I don't know if it's Nerf ball, but having
like
a foam
Nerf football.
Well, they had a football, it was formed around it a foam football put around an explosive was an idea that was.
Did it have the whistle when you threw it?
Oh, it should have for intimidation purposes. Yeah, psychological warfare.
Here's so many of those. I picture what's that scene from 300 where the arrows blood out the sky, but it's just fucking Nerf footballs.
Oh, you hear the fucking whistling? Death whistle? You wear the death whistle.
That sounds like Holloman shit, right?
That sounds like stuff they would do at Holloman Air Force Base. Has a lot of stuff, and we'll probably get to it later. But Holloman has its own history of lots of unusual research, not exactly your typical military research going on in the things, but a lot of really neat stuff went down in there. But we're here to talk normally about something that is a lot more strange than foam football grenades, I suppose.
Yeah.
So Holloman Air Force Base, we have mentioned before. We have talked about before where there was an alleged encounter with the President Eisenhower and some extraterrestrials, and I think the main proponent for that case is its granddaughter. I can't remember.
His granddaughter Eisenhower spilled beans on it.
And I think she's still touring and still doing some talks.
One
and some
small
books.
payment and the purchase of 4 of her healing crystals, and you get the story.
Yeah, that's right.
But Holloman is included in another quite interesting, some people would call saga of alleged UFO and or extraterrestrial contact. So in 1971, apparently you had two producer director combo of it's Alan Sandler and is it Robert Emenegger?
Adam Sandler, right?
Not Adam Sandler.
It's Adam Sandler. This was the first Happy Madison production.
Yeah, I completely read this wrong. I went down the wrong path.
Yeah, you're looking through his credits. You're like, fuck, wait, I don't remember this.
I remember him being. He's pretty young back then.
Billy goes to space. So you had these two film Hollywood guys going out, and they were scheduled to go ahead and meet with some Air Force officials about doing either one singular or a series of documentaries that were going to involve the United States Air Force.
Yeah. And at these meetings, Emenegger let out a couple, right? 100% without a doubt, right? He's fresh off the boat. 100%. Yeah.
Was that your Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, it's Schwarzenegger.
Oh, okay.
That's Eminator. That's not Schwarzenegger.
Oh, sorry.
I just picture fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger rapping some Eminem and just combined it. It's just a big juiced out fucking rapper.
Yeah.
Eminator, right? Like Eminem and Schwarzenegger?
I get it. It's good.
Come on.
Yeah.
So you had both Eminator and Sandler sitting in on a meeting with a couple of officials that is actually the meetings went down at Norton Air Force Base, another one.
So first you put the poop in the bag and then you lights it on fire.
Yeah.
So Norton
spaghetti. I don't know any Eminem lyrics.
Norton Air Force Base is actually in California, which would make sense since both of these guys were like straight out of Hollywood. And they were, I believe Eminator and Sandler both had like documentaries and film credits already attributed to them. So they were kind of maybe perhaps handpicked for this job. They met with two military officials. They met with one, the base's head of the Air Force, Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and another one who was the audio-visual director named
AV Club president.
named Paul Shartle.
Oh, fucking Polly Sharts.
Good old Sharks.
Good old Polly Sharts. Hey,
Dude,
it's my boy.
the names in this one were killing me. When I heard Shartle, I was like, what an unfortunate name.
You know they call them Polly Sharts.
Yeah.
Had to.
What's the origin of Sharts? Like, was that even I wonder if
it's a shit fart.
Yeah, why no?
Oh, okay. I was just making sure.
Yeah.
You of all people should know.
I did ask.
Yeah.
I didn't mean like, oh, what does that mean
Do you
together?
need more fucking
no.
Do you need more detail here?
When did it start being used to describe that? Is what I'm saying. Is like, because I'm like, is this an unfortunate name in 1971, or is this like, did Paul Shartle, coast by?
That's a good question.
Right. That's cute.
Maybe it comes from him. Maybe he's the original.
Paul Shartle, founder of the Shart.
According to Urban Dictionary, it was started around 2001, so he might have been all right.
He might have gone out. Yeah.
So now, according to Eminator and Shartle later, they apparently they discussed a number of projects, and like I believe the topics like before were like before they hit to where they finally got were more like traditional. It was got be about like experimental aircraft, or talking about like just the military in general, aircraft development, all of that kind of stuff. But apparently the conversation that they had, or like this production meeting, ended up veering into the area of UFOs. Talking about a possibility of doing a documentary, a legitimate documentary about UFOs. So,
which is wild. This is wild, even at this point, because you're thinking, all right, these two Hollywood guys are brought in. They're talking with Air Force base officials, and they're like, yeah, you'd like to come. You want to do like a Top Gun documentary? They're like, yeah, maybe that'd be fun. We could do it. Basic training. Then
no, boys, this is just part 2 of the fucking moon landing. They already filmed it. They already brought Hollywood in for it. Why wouldn't they do it again?
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? You've ever heard about these UFOs buzzing around? They're like, no. It's like, that's what we should do it on. Like, you're talking with like military base officials that are like bringing this up. You're like, it's wild to me.
Yeah, we had this one incident, back here, and we actually got footage of it. We'll show it to you.
What? That is kind of the gist of what happened after, because Eminator and Sandler pretty much got the green light during this meeting, saying that we will participate in this. Like you'll have guaranteed cooperation with not only the Air Force but the Navy and the Army as well. And there was actual apparently in this meeting, according to Eminator, there was a promise of having genuine footage of a UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base, which had occurred 2 years previous to this meeting in 1971.
Yeah, they had footage of like 3 craft that were like oscillating, and one landed, and actual aliens emerged. and communicated with base officials for like 3 days. Pretty wild.
It's a wild claim to even bring up to like Hollywood directors that you're like, oh yeah, like that's what you should do. And we have this. It's like, yeah, of course this is what we're doing it on now. Like, you know what I mean? There's everything else is out the window. As soon as you hear this, you're like, obviously we're doing it on this.
Yeah, and the one that the person who told them that they were going to be provided this footage was Paul Shartle. Paul Shartle, he was not only just the audio-visual director, but he was also a security manager and at Norton Air Force Base. And so with his participation, he kind of said that he told Emmenegger that I've seen a video. I've seen the video that with the events that Zell described occurring, that we had this actual video of a UFO from a bit of a distance, but you're able to make you're able to make out quite a few details of this craft that landed. That was pretty much a set of 3. So to describe it, Shartle would go on like it was 1988 or so. In the 1980s, he went on like a live, pretty much TV show about UFO disclosure and these things, and he was on there with Emmenegger. So they were both on at the same time, which is something that is always, if you're going to have 2 people on and one person make the claim like that, you have one person on the TV show to me make the claim. I'm like, okay, that one person just made that claim, no one to back it up. But they were both in there. They were both sitting down for an interview, and Shartle told the entire story about what the footage that he viewed. So in his description, he had these 3 craft which came down kind of from a distance and were kind of in formation. 2 of the craft seemed to be bracketing a third, and this third one seemed a little bit lower, and like Zell described, it seemed to oscillate. And so to Shartle, this would seem to indicate that this craft seemed to be having some sort of problem, some type of mechanical problem or something. And the craft actually ended up lowering down and then, decreasing in altitude and then descending onto the ground. And it landed on these 3 pod looking extensions on the bottom of the craft. And then the other 2, which were still in the air and visible at the time, apparently took off. Like those ones just left. Then within that video, Shartle says that you were able to see some type of sliding door, sliding entrance open up.
Not only an opening door, a nice slow descending ramp came down.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's what we like to see.
Slow descending ramp.
Some smoke emanating like that. Yeah. That's what we like to see.
Yeah. The smoke comes out, and then the figure.
Oh, it's ominous.
A figure appears through the smoke. Human size with gray complexion, maybe a slightly pronounced nose, little slits for eyes, emerges at the bottom of this very slow. Actually, he was on the ramp, and the ramp carried him slowly down to the ground. He didn't even have to walk down it.
Yeah, that's cool.
fucking
I
cool.
like that.
Yeah,
nice touch.
That's what happened.
And then the laser started up, and the
Hell yeah. Guy made an epic entrance.
Right.
The dabbing, did it?
Those details may or not be correct, but I'm pretty sure
some of those
100% correct.
Some of those might be
might be
It was embellished.
That's part of the 8 minutes of footage.
It's all ramp. That's all it was.
Yeah,
Well, and the other interesting thing is this description of these creatures, like Zell said, human sized, gray complexion, big old noses, tight fitting jumpsuits, helmets.
With a jumpsuit silver?
It didn't say. Nothing I found said. It just said jumpsuits, but that's pretty stereotypical of the description. Now, one thing that was said that was brought up, I can't remember which case file it was not too long ago, but the big aspect of no chins, just little bird mouth, right? Little slit like bird mouth. Right? Now I was curious because these things we got a little slit mouth, no chins, right? I was wondering if it had the buck teeth. If these things had the buck teeth, what was the case file where the guy was in the woods, shot the rifle?
That was just a couple ago.
Yeah, it was just a couple case files ago. I think it wasn't the Zem. It wasn't the Zamfreda incident.
No,
Carl Higdon.
Carl Higdon. That's right. Carl Higdon. Right. And these things, if you remember correctly, the description of these is like they had that horse hair. Right. And then they had the slits. Like a lot of the descriptions of these ones kind of parallel to me. Now I wondered if the ones from Carl Higdon were maybe misdescribed, like just by shock or whatever. But maybe where it said they had that pronounced like hair, they were just wearing helmets. Right.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I thought.
Higdon was like fucking up close and personal with him.
This is true.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And you want me to buy in on this? Give me a drill fist.
Yeah, sure. That's true. No drill fist on this. But I'm saying the no chin.
And this guy's got big noses.
Big noses. What we call
gonzos.
You said space shoes before. We've talked about this
I know.
as well, right? So I'm just saying it's not this isn't like wildly different than what like other descriptions we've had from experiencers. So right away I was kind of making those parallels. I was like, well, could this be a similar race? Maybe just a different crew, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So from Emenegger's description of of these creatures, like yes, we have the silver or maybe gray jumpsuits, the grayish complexions. He also said that on their heads they were wearing some type of helmets. Like he was said that they wore some type of helmets, and they were also carrying some sort of device. I think he described it as like a cube or something like that. That he said what he was told later was a kind of translator device. Which is something we've heard of before. That we've had, extraterrestrial encounters where the beings being seen have some type of device, which is people are unable to identify because, of course, you wouldn't be able to identify it's alien. But then, perhaps it may have functioned as a translator.
It's just a Bluetooth speaker. That's what it is that they're holding on to, right? And then they type in American, and it's we come in peace.
I mean, we have those types of devices now, like those little translator boxes. I remember there was like a Kickstarter for a couple of these a while ago that you have ones that will translate in real time. It's basically like a Google Voice like dot, and then like or whatever, and then you talk into it and it will translate your whatever language to another language.
We are not far off from this technology being like perfected. Not perfected, but like very good.
Right. At least with, within Earth languages, and probably languages, it probably does better with languages that are, similar in roots and whatever. But so this footage that Shartle described that he had seen and was apparently promised to Emenegger and Sandler, that was all set to go in there. So, Emenegger and Sandler went about like producing this documentary. They got the title UFOs, Past, Present, and Future. And they got a lot of big names to kind of come on and be on this. Like the documentary they got the narrator to be Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame. Yes. Great. It's like, I mean, right there, it's like you're on board. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I'll watch it. It's got Rod Serling in it. Neat. And then they got it's Jacques Vallée is on there. He I think he brings up like he has an entire section about talking about the ancient astronaut hypothesis. It's kind of a big overarching documentary about the entire UFO phenomenon. And I mean, it's well produced. It's something that it's got a lot of like weight behind it. I mean, there's something, and it's very strange for that, maybe not very typical for that period of time.
I'll be honest with you though, I'm not really that impressed. You said big names, like this is a fucking Sadler production. Rob Schneider's not in it at least. Like he's in fucking everything he does. The guy that plays the homeless student happily. Yeah,
it doesn't even have Norm Macdonald in it, or
what the hell's going on here? Steve Buscemi at least.
Yeah. What is cut his freaking head off?
Yeah. You can't do it.
Yeah, that's what you can do it. Yeah. That's what he says to the aliens, right? That's the if you think about it, this description is not far off of Steve Buscemi.
That's fair. What about that one
Right?
guy with the lazy eye that's always in everything too?
Oh yeah, I know
You know
he has
what I'm
no
talking
chin.
about, right?
Yeah, this guy.
He's got no chin. You're right.
Yeah, he's got no chin. Is this just a Sandler?
Jonathan
Production?
Loran is his name.
Yeah,
I did not know his name.
he's
No,
that guy that in what's the football one?
Waterboy.
Where he's like,
Waterboy?
yeah,
His best movie?
man.
No, that's not him.
Oh no, he's the
No,
guy.
that's fucking Jesus, the guy from oh my God, from Boy Meets World, his best friend. What's his best friend's name?
Sean?
Sean Hunter. Sean Hunter's dad. That's who that guy is.
Really?
Yeah. Fuck, I hope I didn't fuck that up. I've always thought that.
Don't look it up. That's
No,
Stay
it's
confident.
canon.
Stay
Don't worry about it.
confident.
That's canon.
It's canon.
That's canon in the ATT verse now.
So now, according to Emmeniger, the military was totally on board with this. He was getting interviews with some big wigs and things like this, getting a lot of good material, solid material for this documentary. And they even took him to go visit the landing site of where they had seen this. So it actually checked where, like Zell said before, like these extraterrestrials were reported to have stayed and met with U.S. officials for like 3 days. And they said Emmeniger said they took him to where the vehicle was kept. Now, they promised him about 3,200 feet of film of that UFO landing, of the one that was described by Shartle. And
It's crazy to me because I had to think about that. I was like, when I first read that, I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh yeah, it's filmed. Because it's not like we have 8 hours of footage. It's like, we got
2 minutes of footage.
We got a quarter mile of film for you.
Well, the crazy thing too, let's just explore that a little bit more, because when I was reading, it says that those aliens explained while they're on Earth, they're like tracking a different ET race, which they were unfamiliar with, and it brought them to Earth. So goes the story. And then but it doesn't say who the other alien race was or what their alien race name was either.
And are they on Earth?
Yeah, they said there's another
They
ET
tracked
race,
them.
another ET race that they tracked to Earth, that what they were exploring on Earth. And they,
Man, and that's an
Boys.
interesting thought too, Zell, because it's like, to be honest, like if we became spacefaring and we were, could traverse, punch holes through space and time, and we were
Spacefarers?
moving around.
Just flap
And-
around.
Yeah, and we came or found evidence of another race as advanced as us. The odds are you would want to track them because you would want to find them, right? You would want to find them and make contact, either to find out where they're from, or find out what they're doing, what they're about, before they find where you're from. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we've talked about like the dark forest before, where it's like, you would want to be, you know what I mean? Like if you find another race, you would want to be lurking and following them, finding out what they're up to rather than it reversed in case they're hostile.
Absolutely. Well, and like what are they doing on Earth? What's on Earth that they want?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of that trip, right? Because there's obviously something on there that they want too, right?
trying to hybridize
It's
and
just
take over our planet from the inside.
I think they already have.
Basically, they're space investigators. They're like, hey, have you guys met anyone else? Like that's what it kind of feels
Who
like
else
they're
is
doing. They're
around
like,
here?
who else? What other spaceships have you talked to? Right? Where'd they go? Where are they from? Zeta Reticuli? We want to know. Right? Like it seems like it's a very interesting thought that it seems like these aliens are on the heels of something else. And what were they doing? Who did they contact? Right? Did they make contact? It's a very interesting kind of thought that these ones are friendly enough to come and then be trying to find out what this other advanced race was up to or is up to or where they are.
Yeah, because let's call them the friendly ETs, pretty much were described as kind of like scientists or explorers.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of seemed like they were just gallivanting around the galaxy, looking for different planets, tracking new species of maybe sentient beings or intelligent beings.
Yeah.
But then, so he never got the footage is where we're at right now. He was promised all this footage and then we never got it.
He was promised all this footage and they like, it seemed to be like, as they got closer to finishing the production, like this was going to be the big reveal. They kind of planned, I guess, Emenegger and Sandler, when they
this was the get to the chopper moment.
Right. This was going to be the final big reveal at the end of the, the final piece of compelling evidence at the end of the documentary. But they didn't seem that the military was providing it to them. They keep calling like, where's this footage? Like, are you guys going to get it to us? And Emenegger even took it upon himself to go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and talk to one of his own
Area 52.
His Area 52, and talk to one of his own military contacts, by the name of Colonel George Weinbrenner. And he asked him, what happened to the footage. So I assume Weinbrenner had some type of knowledge of this footage. And
he was probably in contact with him, like, hey, like, we've got this here. And he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of this. But like, so I imagine he's kind of verifying this story with other connections as they're pursuing this story. You know what I mean? Like he's probably like, yeah, they're saying this. And he's like, yeah, that checks out. I've heard of this. We're on the right track.
So the story goes when Emenegger asked him, kind of pushed him on the topic of getting this footage. Apparently, Weinbrenner went on this big rant that didn't seem to have anything to do with getting the footage to Emenegger for the production. He was just yelling stuff about Soviet technology and the MiG-25 being big concerns at the time. And but when he finished his entire kind of rant, apparently across the desk, he pushed a signed copy of J. Allen Hynek's book, The UFO Experience, and kind of like nodded to Emenegger. And apparently Emenegger took this as a kind of, signal that perhaps Weinbrenner was putting on some type of show.
Oh,
like, just in case
those damn MiGs, blah, 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 those fucking MiGs, those Russians are up to no good. Here's a UFO book.
He's instantly changing the subject. It's because he's obviously what my thing is this. I'm like, these guys are asking questions. They have sources, right? And so obviously at this point, because they're making it, military's been like, all right, some of this stuff is classified. Who's leaking this stuff? So they start to think that like, different people are the source, right? Are the source of like where this credited information is. So I think Weinbrenner, who was working with them and like giving them information, he's doing this because he knows he's under the magnifying glass and that, his wherever they're having a conversation is bugged or tapped or other people are listening to the conversation and he knows that. Because it seems odd when you listen to this account where he's just like, oh yeah, the Russians, and he just starts going off and like, he's like completely left field of what Emenegger wants to talk about, right? And then as he's talking, he just silently does. The telling part to me is that he silently pushes the book and gives a nod. To me, that means like, I can't talk about it. Yes, you're on the right track. What you're saying, like, yes, but I can't talk here. I can only talk about the MiG.
And then I heard he actually got in trouble for that incident. They wised up to it. He got fired, and then he later took over as the GM of the New York Yankees.
What?
Is that
some of this information may or may not be true.
Steinbrenner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Calzone guy?
Yeah.
Give me a calzone, George.
Yeah. Well, that's an impression Brain did. Sounded just like him.
Russian man, give it! Stands up! Where's my calzone?
Shirtler!
Shirtle!
Or Shirtler. Yeah.
So as the production finally, gets into its final phase, the military apparently pulls their footage. They tell, they kind of straight up tell Emenegger, who's been pushing for the, to get his hands on this footage so they can put it in the documentary. They tell him that we can't give it to you
classified.
We can't pull out and kind of the reason that they give him, like, there's not specific.
What's the to the Mortal Kombat and like finish him. Classified.
Well, they kind of give him the reason. He said like that they can't give it to him because of the Watergate scandal that is going on at the time. Watergate happening in 72. So the whole kind of, the Watergate scandal, the whole big to do. And that is the reasoning that they give him, that they can't release that footage to him to put into this, to put in his documentary. But they end up releasing the rest of it. So what happens, according to legend, is that what they do is, since they don't have the footage in the documentary titled UFOs Past, Present, and Future, which ends up getting released in 74 and actually goes on to get nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Documentary. Towards the end, instead of having this footage, they do this kind of like animated, like sets of pictures, sets of illustrations of like, they frame it as a hypothetical about what would happen if aliens were to land.
To me, the craziest thing to me is that, hold on, before we get any further.
Sorry, boy, fucking garbage trucks outside. Can you guys hear that?
I heard like a.
I thought it was you on your desk.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, then let's just take a quick beer break.
Yeah, let's just take.
We'll be right
quick
back.
Garbage break.
Garbage break.
As I was saying, the craziest thing to me about this is that when this documentary was released, the fact that it was even Golden Globe nominated, because let's be real here, Jeremy Corbell is never getting nominated for a Golden Globe.
He should,
right? Right? I'm just saying he's never in the current state.
I don't know. Like you could
age,
put Jeremy Corbell against something with like, Planet Earth or something. I can't put them in the same.
It's true.
No, but that's what I'm saying is to me, it's impressive that in this day and age that a documentary on this subject matter was
but this is probably
even
the
nominated.
first. Like, has there been any? Like, is this the OG UFO documentary?
I'm sure there was more before this, but
maybe this is the best quality.
Well, this one's got Adam Sandler and Eminem, right?
Yeah,
that's
true. Yeah.
So yeah, they went on to release this documentary with at the end that they had to replace, last minute decision that they didn't get the footage that they wanted, so they had to replace it with this hypothetical. So it's kind of went down in history as this, the documentary that perhaps may have been the U.S. government's first attempt at soft disclosure, putting out there that, the military, I mean, it kind of seems that way if you set it up, or if you frame it in the idea that, it's the U.S. military, the U.S. government called these guys. They handpicked these two documentary dudes from Hollywood, and they brought them in, and they went ahead and said, like, hey, like, we can provide you with this information and this footage to support the idea that extraterrestrials are here visiting Earth.
Let's say it's hypothetical
already.
Pretend it's hypothetical.
Not even, but that's the thing. The hypothetical decision was apparently later. Like that wasn't. Yeah, like the whole idea to make it like a hypothetical was something that was because they couldn't get that actual footage. They had to do that, or either they had to do that, or they suggested that they make it a hypothetical instead of an actual, base it on, claims that they had footage. But
there is actual footage in this.
Right.
There's 8 seconds of real footage.
Right. So they said they somehow got like 8 seconds of the actual footage of the craft and in this documentary. So there's like a couple frames of what one could say is a UFO, because it's just like, and it is to describe it is like a disc shaped craft, hovering for a few moments. And so it does look very strange and it's not a very orthodox craft that you would have found plying the skies of 1950s, 60s, or 70s.
Yeah.
So there is that. So a lot of people will point to that, and they will say that footage is a piece of the original, of what they had gotten their hands on, just like a little bit of the footage. Like maybe they gave it a sum, and they're like, "Here, you guys can use that." And not.
From what I understood, the actual filmmakers saw the real footage. and it got taken away from them. And this is the only little bit that they were able to keep. I put it in the group.
They burned
so I
it
don't know
or
if you can put it on the live stream. They took it back. They like redacted it. I'm like, no, that can't be in the film. When I watched that interview, right, where they both of them were on stage, they talked about that.
Right. So watching the interview, it's like Shartle says that he saw the footage, but Shartle wasn't the one making the documentary. He was just the one who was going to be the go-between he was the audiovisual guy. He was basically like, in the military, we have rates. You have jobs that deal with audiovisual stuff. Like in my time in the Navy, we had MCs. You had the media communication people. They're photographers, videographers. That's all they do. And so it's not unusual for like an Air Force base, Norton military base, they would have somebody who would be like, hey, we're going to bring in these guys. Can you talk film with them and help them do their documentary? So he was saying that he saw that.
Can you guys hear this? I'm not sure if you can hear this. Hopefully you can. This is the clip that Andrew just sent me that we can. Did you want me to play this, Andrew?
Well, it's just in this has the actual footage that is supposedly of the real craft.
And it's not him explaining how he used it or how he got it, I believe.
All right, can you guys hear this? Let me see if we can hear it.
He is author and filmmaker Robert Emenegger. And former security manager and chief of requirements for the audiovisual program at Norton Air Force Base, Paul Shartle. Gentlemen, Mr. Emenegger, how did you get involved with UFOs?
Well, it was in 1973 when I was vice president at Gray Advertising, and I took time out and went to...
First off,
look at those eyes. You want to talk about you want to talk about gray skin and slits for eyes? Pronounced nose? Sure Emenegger's not one of these aliens?
He's got human skin stretched over an alien body right here.
Emenegger looks like he's about to say, oh, that smell? I just had some meat that went bad.
Those are the type of those are the eyes that you get from sitting for long hours in dark editing booths trying to put together documentaries about UFOs, I suppose.
Those fucking bottle caps, man.
Holy shit.
Norton Air Force Base to explore subjects for television specials related to the Defense Department. While discussing several of the subjects, UFOs came up, and Paul here told us about a film of a landing of alien crafts at Holloman Air Force Base about 3 years earlier.
What did you see, Mr. Shartle?
I saw footage of 3 disc-shaped crafts. One of the craft landed and 2 of them went away.
Why did it land?
It appeared to be in trouble because it oscillated all the way down to the ground. However, it did land on 3 pods. A sliding door opened, a ramp was extended, and out came 3 aliens.
What did they look like?
Well, they were human-sized. They had odd gray complexion and a pronounced nose. They wore tight-fitting jumpsuits, thin headdresses that appeared to be communication devices, and in their hands, they held a translator, I was told. A Holloman base commander and other Air Force officers went out to meet them.
You actually saw these aliens on the film?
Yes.
This film footage sounded very, very special, and we wanted to use it as the ending of our television special.
And did you? Was it in your special?
Well, although the Pentagon had been very, very cooperative all the way, at the last minute, the film was confiscated, and we lost the whole finale of our show. But what I saw and heard was enough to convince me that, the phenomenon of UFOs is real, very real.
Mr. Shartle, what did your superior officers tell you?
I was told it was theatrical footage the Air Force has purchased to make a training film.
Well, that sounds plausible, doesn't it?
You can fast forward it to 2:48.
Didn't show anything. And what it is you see the hills of Holloman, and you see this object, this brilliantly lit object at 6 o'clock in the morning coming over the hills, but it's in a distance. So you don't see it close up, and you don't see the alien when the alien gets out. That's the classified part. So they want you to know that Holloman happened, and they allowed them to use the 8 seconds of the film, but the rest of the film, the classified part, was pulled.
So it's just like an orb coming down.
Right. So it's a bright object in the distance that you see descending in altitude.
Tic-tacky looking.
Yeah, it's but you hear them saying like the Pentagon the whole time they were cooperating, and then at the last second, like on release day, they're like, they pull this, right?
We gave these nerds too much, pull it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I could understand like the reasoning, like part of the reasoning being the Watergate scandal, like sounds plausible because it's like, dude, like we had just had a major thing. Like the Watergate was a big deal.
That's your excuse for everything around that time. It's Watergate. Just like in the 2000s, it's like, hey, listen, 9/11. Can't do it, 9/11.
Yeah.
Just had 9/11.
I mean, it was a big deal.
I still use.
Big deal.
To be
Doesn't
honest,
mean
I
you should
still
hide
use it.
disclosure.
That's why I didn't go to
People
work
deserve
today.
to know. 9/11.
Yeah, I was like, I can't come in today. My boss was like, why? I was like, I just woke up. I got to thinking about 9/11. And he was like, say no more.
That's fair.
You're off.
So yeah, that 8 seconds of footage, which is apparently like the beginning of that thing, and was made it into the film. Now, another interesting thing is like when you track some of this stuff across the internet, you come across the perhaps the claim that the footage that they had confiscated, the one of the aliens coming down and then Shartle saying that they used it as or they changed their tune and said that it was a theatrical thing. It's said that footage was used as a kind of template for Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the alien craft lands. Spoilers, it's about aliens. When the alien craft lands towards the end of the movie. So that is something that Steven Spielberg having a penchant for accuracy, and he kind of was in on that stuff already. It's maybe there are some rumblings across the internet, claims that perhaps some of this stuff had made it, even though it didn't make it into that documentary. Maybe some of it had been used for that. Now, Holloman Air Force Base in itself, what is actually documented to have gone down in that area, how you look at it, like the Holloman Air Force Base might have been the best place. Like if this were to have occurred, if this is true, if the claims are true, like this might have been the place to do it. Holloman Air Force Base was the where they tested like tons of experimental aircraft, and I'm not saying just planes and jets, but they also did things like high altitude jumps, like people taking up balloons to like 10,000 feet. Or no, sorry, I think the highest one was 102,800 feet, and they had what was it? Joseph Kittinger in 1960 jumped out of an air balloon to test out it was the longest skydive in the history.
And that record probably stood for a long time.
Right. I think the
crazy
biggest
thing about those air sleds too are fucking insane. Those rocket sleds.
And then right. So that's the other one, is that the one of the events that Holloman Air Force Base is known is to have tested a rocket propelled test sled where they shot John Stapp strapped into this thing.
Listen, guys, listen. This has been plaguing me forever. I gotta know, how the fuck does Santa Claus do it?
I was thinking the same thing. That was intentional. Like, is Santa Claus real? Can we prove it? I don't know. But if he does, we'll figure it out. And they're like, the guy, strapped to rock. They're like, there's no way.
It's the Jimersons debating how fast Santa Claus can go, is what you're saying.
Right. They're trying to uncover the secrets of Santa Claus's sled. They got that.
He comes off, he's all shaking. God damn it, Jim. We still don't know how he's doing it with 12 reindeer. We don't get it. Doesn't make sense.
They got him up to
comes in like, God damn it, Jim. He's not even real. And they're like, what? What are you saying?
God damn it, Jim, keep it down. Keep it down. We're gonna end up on the naughty list.
Yeah. God damn it, it's a story for kids. You just strapped a poor man to a rocket.
God damn it, Jim, you're getting coal.
So they got him up onto that rocket sled about 632 miles per hour. This was it's insane.
They put a human
it's like 40 G's or something. It was like 40 G's.
The acceleration on that rocket on the track would be insane.
I don't know. The guy. They have
I picture it looking like a Santa sled.
Is it fast enough to get to every country in one night?
Shit.
I'm sure you have to.
No, it's not. That's why they're like he held the record because he survived. The guy who went faster died. They're like, it's not possible. He can't be real, Jim.
God damn it, Jim. We need Tim Allen.
Holloman was also also had the claim to be having under its wing dozens of chimpanzees, which they used for high altitude experiments during the space race. Like I think it was like chimpanzees, other animals like pigs, dogs, and things like that they were launching out into space or close to space to try to get. As we approached actual human space travel, they used these animals there. They housed them there at Holloman Air Force Base. One of the things, now we mentioned balloons before, and if people are familiar with a lot of the Roswell landing, which I hope people are, one of the official...
No, what is that one again?
One of the official explanations offered up by Air Force military officials was that the materials that were recovered were actually part of a somewhat recently declassified Department of Defense program called Project Mogul. And Project Mogul was basically utilizing long range balloons to carry out reconnaissance in the forms of, I think there's like some of them had like radiation detectors. They had these really sensitive radiation detectors.
I think one of the original purposes was to detect like Soviet
nuclear detonation
to see what they're up to. Like, so these balloons are super high altitude and they could, I guess, read through the ionosphere what was being shaken through the atmosphere through these fucking giant explosions across the world.
And so Holloman's location there, isolated out in New Mexico, made it the perfect location for the launching of these balloons. So there's an association there that perhaps Holloman, if that is true, then these balloons would have been launched from Holloman Air Force Base. They launched balloons from there as well, so it made it kind of, if it's close to Roswell, it is one of those. So whether or not whichever side of the fence that you stand on, you could kind of see it. Kind of linking up together there.
Yeah, so we know Project Mogul was a real thing. It's just was Roswell Project Mogul. That's what,
right.
That's
or did they just we have Project Mogul and we're going to use that to cover the ET or the crash that happened,
time traveling Russian children theory, whatever that one was.
Nuclear radiated children,
small people
crashed
in these experimental crafts.
Right. So yeah, if this was a lot of, like I said before, a lot of people pointed to this case as being a good example as a time when the government was to put out soft disclosure. Now, my question is, would this have been a good idea? Like, would this have been effective? Like, would this have been soft disclosure? Is this the first attempt at soft disclosure, or are there others that have been made before? I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, if that video of the descending craft, that few seconds we've seen, is a real thing, I mean, it would be a good first step. Like, we have this crazy video. It looks like some type of spacecraft descending from the atmosphere. We can't really tell what it is, but that would be a good first step to get people just thinking about it. Because,
yeah. And if they released, think about it, like if they released this documentary, this legitimate documentary with the support, they put a big stamp on it that says with the cooperation of the Department of Defense, and they say we have actual footage of an extraterrestrial craft and extraterrestrial beings, meeting with military officials, and this documentary just came out, no prelude, no nothing. This documentary just drops. Like, what are the reactions? Do you think would have happened then? Where would we be at?
I don't think
a lot of ticket sales.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people would be surprised right now.
Box office hit.
It would be an interesting thing to bring up at one of these, like in the upcoming congressional UFO hearings, UAP hearings. Is like, can we see this footage? Is this footage exist? What happened here? Why? Like, what happened with this documentary? They said they were in contact. Do we still have this footage? Did it exist? Those would be questions I'd be interested in asking. But part of me, when I look at this and I think about it, seeing that them work with it, I do worry. Part of me worries. Like, I'm not saying that this isn't the case. We've seen a bit of the footage. There's enough like oddities to this where I'm like, quite possibly they had something here that just got pulled by the military. They're like, we want nothing to do with this. But I do worry that potentially that Emmenegger, Shartle, and Sandler were just used as useful idiots in a agent of misinformation, right? Like they were feeding them wrong information, basically to get them off the tracks, right? Of what's really going on, or events that have really happened, to make it seem like maybe like this was one of the first tests where the government's like, "Okay, we got to give them some information, then pull it away." So then we can be like, "This is categorically false. Didn't happen." So you can paint the negative picture of like to the public of like crazy. No one was ever working with these guys. It's hard for me because I do believe 100% unequivocally that UFOs have visited, are around, have been in contact, and governments know more than they're letting on. I believe that, but I also believe governments have been involved in providing as much misinformation as possible because, one, they don't want other foreign countries to know that they're in contact or have gotten technologies from these, races, the alien races. So it's a difficult position for me to balance of like, where does the truth lie on this one? Where's the kernel of truth?
I mean, you're going to have to ask Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
Right. Because on that note, I mean, because in 1954, Eisenhower was we talked about it, I think back it was case file. I wrote it down here. Case file way back on 105. We talked about Eisenhower and the aliens, and he was on vacation in like Palm Springs, and there's missing presidential logs of this one day, which is not, this is not far from Holloman. The official story is, it wasn't recorded because it was a dental emergency, but the UFO researchers have deduced that perhaps he actually met either the aliens or met someone who had met the aliens and discussed that we are not alone in the universe. And then a dozen years later, after it's gone through all these cycles of people looking into it, they're like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to keep people in the dark forever. So let's give them a little snippet in this documentary, like a hypothetical documentary of what if aliens landed on Earth. So in that case, I mean, because it's been around with Roswell 47, Eisenhower meets the aliens in 54, and then what are we in 74 when this documentary releases? So like a slow drip.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, Zell, and you brought it up, is like the story goes is that these aliens came to America and they were talking to Americans about tracking another advanced civilizations, right? Some sort of spacefaring race that had come to Earth, right? So if they're telling this to the Americans, what if this other race that they're landed in Russia, right? And we're talking with the Russians, because then there'd be conversations of like, hey, it's the height of the Cold War. They're like, where did they land? Right?
Yeah,
like,
what if the other aliens they're talking about are the ones that landed in 54?
It feels kind of funny to be like, it's like, well, the aliens can't find them, so the last guys. Like, well, if aliens with advanced technology lost them, what chance do we have of finding them?
Yeah, but maybe if
they made contact, right?
But maybe they're making contact thinking that we're like a global race, right? And then we're like, we're not all. It's not unity. We have like, we have tribes. Right, where like we don't get along with the ones on the other side of the world. So if they landed there, it could be an issue, right? Because if they're giving them technology,
Red
like
Sun,
right? And so it's like they're like, okay, these beings aren't ready for the Intergalactic Federation, whatever. We're just gonna peace. Like, all right, thanks for your help. See you later. But like, if then United States officials were like, hey, Russia, you have any visitors? So like, what do you mean visitors? Like, what do you mean visitors?
The aliens are standing behind him, like behind him on the hotline. Like, ask him if he's seen anybody with purple skin. Like, what?
Yeah.
Hey, Russia, you guys seen any people with like purple skin? Like, what?
Yeah. Why have you? Right? You know what I mean? Because like tensions have been so high that it's like.
And then the other aliens are behind the Russians. Like, no. Tell them we're here. We're not here. Turn off the light. Yeah. Turn off the lights and pretend not to be home. Turn off.
Hang up. Tell them you're gonna launch the nukes if they call again. Right? It's just to me, I'm like, that's part of me. It's like, man, this time you're like, we're not communicating. Like, information does not travel through all humanity, especially in 1970s. Like depending where and Russia's, again, the largest landmass. So it's like, if you had to guess, like if UFOs are coming down, statistically speaking, the odds of them coming in Russia are greater than anywhere else, any other country. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, the West and Russia, especially in this time, doesn't get along. So it's like, we are not going to share that information. So then if others come, land in the States, it
makes sense to me, though, that it links, like they would try to travel to the same spot the other UFOs did if they were looking for them. And that's why it goes with the 54 Eisenhower, because they know, like they're saying that they've already had this meeting. So we're coming here because we're tracking these people, this species.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we know they've been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So they're 20 years after, but in their time frame of travel, they're like a couple minutes behind, right? Or maybe an hour behind. But for us, it's like a 20-year because of time dilation or whatever, right? They land, they're like, hey, what'd you have? And they're like, fuck, we met with them. We signed treaties. So like, oh, you signed treaties. No. Terrible idea, right? Like, what did they say? That's an interesting point. I never even thought about that. That if they're hot on the heels, even hot on the heels, if you're looking at light speed, would essentially be years, could be decades on like a planet for us.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting thought.
It is.
Do they have to cooperate with our forces because they have to like extradite them or something? They have to ask our permission to like take prisoners from
Buddy, maybe this is Dog the Bounty Hunter, right? Dog the Bounty Hunter style, right? They're hot on the trail.
These fucking aliens are smoking ice.
Space ice.
Yeah, space ice. Gotta lock them up.
So while you have the one footage, that's pretty much like the only piece of physical evidence, you can call that you have. One of the other ideas that I've seen floating around is about that footage is perhaps not what they showed Chartle or what Chartle saw. Like it kind of is like, I saw a UFO, like I saw something, I saw footage of this. Now, discounting the alien thing and just the entire thing about the aliens, because you can't really say anything. Like if he saw that, none of us have seen that footage, but what we have seen, it could also be a footage of perhaps a testing of one of the inventions of one Paul Mahler. Paul Mahler was the inventor of the Disco Jet project in 1974, which he had been. Disco Jet sounds awesome. Pretty fucking awesome. Cool. Paul Mahler, he was an inventor who had been working on flying saucer projects since the 60s. He had been working on there's one you can pull up pictures if you want. There's one called the M200G Volantor, which is basically, just to describe it, is that it is a flying saucer. It's got the little tail off the end. It's got a little bubble in the middle, and then around it is a bunch of just like vertical fans, jet fans that would allow it to potentially, at least from just looking at the design, to move, lift off and land vertically, and then move around as it was. But he's known to have put out these designs since the 60s, and the Air Force is known to, if not not this one, but like things like the Avro car, car, this is the Project X-27. I can't remember the designation, but it's like that was a Canadian project, US project. It was the good old Avro car. That this footage potentially could have been something like that. Like you're just kidding, because all of these are all silver. They're all whatever. If you're shot from that far out, that's the only thing that kind of is like. I'm bummed that we can't see the close up footage, but from this, it's like it also could just be one of those. So it doesn't. If somebody saw this, that this is definitely. The way that it moves is something that isn't possible. This is something that I would point at and be like, no, it probably could be done. You have the inventions of Paul Muller and the stuff like the Avro car that existed. I don't know when the years of the Avro car, but Paul Muller had been working on projects like this since the 60s. So it wouldn't be that far out to posit that as a possible explanation.
Well, yeah, that is one of the main theory even about modern UFOs is advanced aircraft, maybe out of a whole different field of physics that has been released. It's military only first.
Right.
And they fly these crafts, these drones, these hypersonic drones can go from 0 to 50,000 feet in a few, like crazy stuff that's impossible, that we think would be impossible. They have it. And then 20 years, we're like, it was actually this drone program from Russia.
Yeah. And even like watching that footage for me is like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any 5 observables that we talk about every now and then. Like it doesn't display any qualities that I would be like, this is totally impossible for human technology. It kind of just goes from up to down. It doesn't like move around, sudden stops, seeming to just.
By all accounts, it was not flying well. Like the accounts are like something was wrong with it. Right.
Which is like,
the accounts are like, it was coming down because something's wrong. Like it's not good.
And from the descriptions of most of the flights, the test flights of the Avrocar and like those flying disc projects, like I've seen some of those old videos of those flying those saucer craft, and I've read some of the accounts of like the actual test flights, and like they're like it's like riding a cyclone, like a bunky Bronco inside of a tornado. Like it's just going all over the place, and you can't keep it straight because all the gyroscopes are working fucking overtime to keep it from flipping over. So yeah, if you were to say like, yeah, I saw this, and I saw this craft kind of flipping all over the place, I'd be like, yeah, those things didn't work really good. But again, that's just saying from that one piece of footage. But Shartle's pulling from his memory of the complete footage that he says he saw that includes a close-up of this craft showing these extraterrestrials exiting the craft and meeting with officials there on the tarmac, I suppose.
If that video exists, that's it. That's all we need. Just that video of the slow ramp with the smoke and the ET stepping through. And the whole
laser lights.
Everyone's
it also seems weird. Like it's like they're like, yeah, it's a theatrical. Like even when they offered him the explanation, they're like, it's a theatrical production that they were making for their own documentary. There are a lot of questions just for that to be like, okay, so like who are the actors? Like who did the camera work? Like there should be all of this kind of documentation about this thing. Who crafted this special effects prop of this entire craft with the extending, like that takes prop work. That takes effort to make something to look like that. You could probably find out who made the ship from the day the Earth stood still, because that's what this reminds me of. The whole, the sliding doors opening and then a extending out, walkway sounds all very, day the Earth stood still, Klaatu, Parada Nikto. Like,
it's cool though. If it exists,
is cool.
It's cool. If you have the footage and you've been sitting on it this whole time, you inherited it from your grandpa.
If you or somebody has the footage,
please send it to alientheorists@gmail.com. Or
if you have any more information about this unsolved mystery. I mean, mystery.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let us know. All our socials, shoot us a message. We got something wrong. You got a distant relative who worked on the project. You got some inside information. We won't even say your name. Just let us know. Huh. We always appreciate it.
We want to know what you think. If you've seen the documentary UFO Past, Present, Future, now we've told you a little bit about the backstory. Like, do you think there's something more? Do you think there's 3,200 feet of footage? Do you think these guys were useful idiots for the government? Do you think this was pulled because of the Watergate? What do you think? We want to know what you think. What happened? Right? Let's get theorizing.
Get theorizing.
Find us on our social. We're going to be posting about this social. We're posting about the socials all week. Comment on there. Let us know. Let's start a discussion.
Fuck yeah. All right. Let's. We've kind of moved away from Theory of the Week, but that doesn't mean.
What do you mean? What do you mean we moved away?
I was kind of thinking of somebody.
We didn't do 1 week, and that doesn't mean we moved away from it.
I think I got somebody for this week.
Well, I mean, I think I showed you exactly who I had, but
Zell literally told us who it was going to be.
Yeah.
When did you? Was I here?
Yes.
Oh,
well, you want 2? We can do 2.
Okay.
Let's do 2.
Double up. Because we didn't give one last week.
Sure.
So we'll double up. Make it up. All right.
Sure. Yeah, let's double up.
Andrew, go first. Who do you got? We don't know. It's a mystery.
Holy fuck, boys! The CTE is going fucking crazy. I don't remember that conference. You sure didn't go upstairs or something like that while you did that?
No, you were here.
You're definitely there.
As soon as he starts talking about it, you're gonna go, "Oh yeah,
oh yeah,
oh yeah, bro."
Okay.
And I want you to say that.
Not in there.
As soon as Zell starts talking about it, I want you to go, "Oh yeah."
You could see it in my face. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay."
Yeah.
Well, this week's Theory of the Week or co-theory of the week. I was thinking we'd give it to Freya and the entire Milbank clan.
Oh,
Congratulations.
another member of the family.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of cooler parents.
Hell
Expanding
yeah.
out the Millbank
Imagine
Army.
having a dad as a fucking rock star.
The child is,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, set
I
up.
feel bad because I was messaging him and I was like, man, I'm so sad. It's so unfortunate that Freya's first fucking Packers game is gonna be a loss to the Lions. And then the Lions did in fact kick the shit out of the Packers. So
It's funny
I feel like I
because
gotta give her 3 out of the week.
Jason was posting pictures of his baby. There's a couple where he's posting where it's like, there is absolutely no question that's his baby. Looks just like him, making the same face.
Yeah.
It looks just like
That's
him.
awesome.
Hell yeah, that's a
Awesome. But yeah,
congratulations,
Congrats, guys.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good addition. Good addition, Andrew. Good addition,
That's a
Andrew.
good addition. 100% a good addition.
Here's Millbank.
And the other theory of the week has to remain slightly anonymous because they said in this fully written letter that
Typed out letter.
Yeah.
Printed out.
Yeah.
Where was I must have been somewhere else.
I don't know.
I don't think I remember you saying theory. I just remember you showing it and being like, oh, that's fucking cool. But I don't like blanked on that.
anyways,
Oh, yeah.
this
CT is
this
real.
cool theory of the week is or was, I cannot say for certain because of got to keep his identity a secret.
Confidentiality.
But a medic in the Canadian military in a special forces unit. And he says in his letter, he says, oh, everyone says I'm ex-special forces, blah, blah. So I sent you boys 4 of my unit coins, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Mhm.
So he sent 4 coins. I can't tell you exactly what the unit is, but you know who you are who sent this in. And
Yeah, you're a badass. That's who
and
you are.
you know what? We don't do this often, but because you typed it in this perfectly written letter, perfectly spell checked and edited, a shout out to your friend, Steve the firefighter. Who you mentioned a few times. You better fucking give a shout out to Steve the firefighter. So we can call it Steve the firefighter, but we can't call it the actual theory of the week who gave us these dope ass coins. But you know who you are.
Cool.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, this theorite of the week is being accepted by Steve the firefighter. So congratulations.
Yeah,
Steve
in
the
honor.
firefighter. In honor.
Steve the firefighter will accept
In
your
fact,
theory of the
cousins
week.
with Steve the pirate.
And we thank you for your service.
Fuck yeah.
All right, and if you're not supporting the show and you want early access to all of the case
Listen!
files,
Fuck, how many episodes are you gonna listen for free?
come on.
All right, you listen to this? Come on, $5. All right, come on. You get 100 hours, you get Dungeons and Dragons, you get tons of other shit. $5 is all you need. You give it you're not even donating. It's literally a trade. Trade us.
You got an empty cup you can shake at him with that toque and the sweater? It's pretty good. The beard. Yeah. Like,
Pretty,
It's your money.
dilated
Come
pupils,
on.
looking like, you know, you just.
yeah, it looks pretty good.
It's pretty.
Little twitch. here and there.
Little red in the face.
Yeah, it's good.
Come on,
Yep.
hairbrush.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
need some of your support.
Listen to Braden. Head to alientheorist.com. Hit the support tab. Patreon, the Supercast.
Support Braden's rehab.
Yeah.
Get Braden back on the right track here. Alientheorist.com.
I've been 1 minute sober.
Boom. This week's newer supporters: Trigun77,
Just relapse because of you. Not supporting.
Joseph Branston, Raymond, Wyatt Halliday, Ruben,
Cool, man.
and Alexander K.
Okay.
Or K?
Is there a question mark at the end, or you just don't know how to say it?
I don't know. I think it's K. Alexander K. Thank you very much for supporting the
And
show.
listen, the rest of y'all, if you're thinking, oh, someone else's support, well, listen, last couple months they haven't been, so you better get off your ass and help support the show. It's independent. We need your help. Even if you're Spotify, you might want to jump on Supercast. That way you get the feed on Spotify. If you're looking for other ways to support the show, we have PayPal. Do we have PayPal attached to alientheorist.com?
Yeah, you can donate through Supercast as well, but yeah, it's all on there.
Yeah, donate through Supercast, or if you're like, I don't want to do any of that, head to our merch store. Go to alientheorist.com, buy some merch. Right, all of that supports the show.
You got slurry.
It's getting super dense. The words are all combined.
Dude,
If you understood, if you understood Brazen,
eyes on the skies. Peace.